We're going to talk about why marketers are inherently selfish. We're going to talk about how to avoid being a selfish marketer. We're going to talk about the importance of emotion, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. Now, in the middle of all this, and it's not on the slide, I'm gonna talk about an example of some of the nicest people on the face of the planet. These are wonderful marketers down in Australia, and I'm going to show you a before and after of how they went from being selfish to not being selfish. And again, I have to just preface that with these are literally the nicest people on the face of the planet. All right. So it doesn't matter whether you think you're selfish or not. Everybody is. And even people who are truly wonderful, are selfish. Now, here's the thing. I'm asking you the question, are you a selfish marketer? And let me answer it for you, and then let me prove the answer. The answer is yes, you are a selfish marketer. Why are you a selfish marketer? Because you're a human, all right? And as humans, we are selfish. We are just hardwired that way, and so we're going to talk about why that is. But let me first prove it to you. Think about this. Go to a party, you go to a trade show, not a virtual one, you're in person, you meet people, and 3 seconds after you meet people, what happens? You forget their name. Let's be honest, we've all done this. Why? It's because we're thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about other things, we're not in the moment. We don't care about the person we just met. Now, in some instances we do care, and we immediately get their name. But in other instances, what happens is we've made a judgment call and we've decided, you know what? We're not interested, and we forget their name. Well, why is that? It's because we're selfish. So, while you strive to place your visitors as at the top of your list, that's what we should be doing as marketers. We don't always do this, and why? Well, it's because we're fallible. We're human beings. I'll give you another example. We talked a little bit um, about remembering someone's name and forgetting them. How about this? I'll make it even more. You're in a relationship with someone, whether you're married or it's a significant other or it's your best friend, you're having a conversation, the person says something to you and you realize you weren't listening, right? How often does that happen? And it's like, I'm sorry, what did you say? I mean, it's embarrassing, but it's who we are, it's what we do. And unfortunately, that is hardwired into us to the point where it actually affects us when we're creating marketing campaigns or websites or pages for your visitors to visit. Now, if you're familiar with Maslow, his hierarchy of needs, basically what we're saying is that at the base level, you've got the physiological needs of air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. This is our animal instincts, and one would argue or suggest that as we go up towards the top of the pyramid, we start to become more and more involved, right? And you can see we go to safety needs, we go to love and belonging, we go to esteem and so on. But here's the thing. At the base of this pyramid, no matter how evolved you may be, we are all literally hardwired down at that level for, food, shelter, survival. It's who we are. And it's not just Maslow who is saying this. This goes all the way back to Socrates, to Thomas Hobbes, to my favorite, Sigmund Freud. Basically, what all of these very well-known people are saying is we are selfish in different ways, right? So Socrates, and this is almost rude, people engage in good behavior mainly for self-preservation and fear of punishment. That basically says we're animals. We wouldn't be good unless we were afraid that, people would do bad things to us. And then Thomas Hobbes, I mean, this is even, I don't know, this might even be more depressing. Voluntary acts like helping others, doing one's duty, have ulterior motives. Well, let me talk about that for a second. So if you are donating to a charity, and I donate to charities, all right, one of my favorite, and I'm not pitching a charity here, guys, But one of my favorites is St. Jude's Children's Hospital. I love giving to them. But why do we give to charity? We give to charity not because we're being selfless. We're giving to charity because of how it makes us feel. Okay, it's all about how we feel. And so when we do things, even for other people, it really comes back to us and how we feel. And I know this sounds really kind of self serving, but it's true. This is how we're wired. And I know I'm hammering on this before we get into how this affects your digital marketing, but I really want you to think long and hard about who you are as a person and what it is that drives you, because what drives you drives your marketing. So here's the thing: no matter how good your intentions are, okay, you're going to get caught up in these selfish behaviors. For one reason, it's because you're human. So what now? Well, let me suggest a couple things before we go any further. And this is something that has absolutely changed my life, and I just want to share this with you if this is helpful for you in any way, shape, or form. One of the books that I've read over the years is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Now, that is an old book, but oh my God, human behavior hasn't changed from the 1920s really to the 2020s. So if you haven't read that book before, I would strongly recommend, even though it's an old one, to go and read the book. Now, what's interesting about the book, and he makes this point in the book, is that you should actually read the book a couple times a year. And why would we do that? We do that because we fall back on our old behaviors very, very easily. So by refreshing ourselves over and over again, we have the ability to potentially um, improve our behaviors. Another book that I'm going to recommend, and this is this is going to sound like a strange book for a digital marketing discussion, but the second book that truly changed my life is What Women Want Men to Know by Dr. Beverly DeAngelis. Now, this book it's thick, and I read through the first, I don't want to say 70 pages of the book, and I was thinking, oh my God, women can't possibly be that dysfunctional. And then I read the next 70 pages. And I'm like, oh my God, men can't possibly be that dysfunctional. And the reality is, we're all dysfunctional in this weird way. We just don't communicate well with each other. And so that book helped me to better communicate with men and women. It helped me with my employees, with my boss at the time. It helped me with my spouse, my children, my friends. So the two books, if you've got time, I would recommend are How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and What Women Want Men to Know by Beverly DeAngelis. All right. So with that said, all right, let's go a step further. Um, Digital marketing is really a game you don't play by yourself. It's all about the visitor. It's not about you. Don't do what we call the opera school of marketing. And the opera school of marketing is where we're going, it's me, 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 me. It's all about me. And here's the thing, it's not about you. It's about your visitor. All right. And so everything you do needs to be associated with making it better for your visitor. All right. So empowerment in digital marketing. All right, let's talk about that. The key here, and we're going to take a minute or two on this. The key here is to align three things. All right, you need to align the user intent with the experience they have with your website or your company. Okay, and you notice I'm not just saying your website here. All right, and your goals. If you miss any one of those three things, you've got a failure. So let's talk about that for a second. Visitor intent. They're coming to your company, or organization, because they're trying to solve a problem. What is that problem they're trying to solve? Remember, I said we're selfish, right? And if we've all agreed that we might be selfish, it's safe to say that your visitor is selfish too. They're there because of what they want. They don't care about you. They care about the problem they're trying to solve. So we need to align that visitor intent with the experience they have. And today we're mostly talking about a website, but it could also be the email marketing. Are you matching their intent? It could be what happens when they pick up the phone. It's all of these different things. So aligning that why they're there with what they receive is a big win. However, you have to also align it with your company goals. Because if you're not getting some value out of it for yourself, so you're allowed to be a little selfish, if all three aren't in alignment, then guess what? What happens is you are not going to fulfill the growth goals for your company. So the three things are user intent, visitor experience, or prospect experience, and your company goals. All right. Have to have all three of those. Without that, it's just not going to happen. So when somebody comes to your website or your business or however they get there, you need them to be the center of your universe. They need to feel that way. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the principle of reciprocity. Basically, if you do something for somebody, you've earned the right to ask for something back. It's give before you get. All right. So if on your website you are providing value, you are giving before you are getting. So along those lines, and I'm not saying go buy a third book, I will tell you that there is a book by a man by the name of Stu Henneke, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. And basically what he proposes is that you on social media stalk some people, figure out what they're interested in, and then send them something. So if the person that you wanted to have a meeting with is big into cooking, or so send them a cooking mitt, or send them a cooking apron, or they're big into barbecue, whatever it is. You stalk them, you send them, and that invokes the principle of reciprocity. Okay. This is also true, however, or even though that's maybe a step too far, this is also true on your website. How many times have you gone to a website where they've got a form on the website and the form asks, first name, last name, email address, phone number, city, state, and zip, how much of this? It's got all of these questions, right? And all of that just to download like a white paper or something. Seriously? Why do I need to tell you my phone number, my email, and where I live to download a white paper? That's just creepy. All right. It's like the guy going into a bar, person going into a bar, going up to a stranger and saying, "Hi, you live around here? Do you live alone?" It's creepy. So we tell our clients, don't be creepy online. Actually, we tell them don't be creepy in person too, but that's a different problem. All right. But the idea is if instead of asking for all of that stuff, if you give people value up front, let them download the white paper, and then if you provide such amazing value in the white paper, you have earned the right to have a call to action in the white paper, and they will trust you more. All right. And so that's the principle of reciprocity. And I will tell you, we've tested this over and over and over again, and it works really nice. So what do marketers do that prove they're selfish? All right. Um, One of the ones that we hear all the time is or see all the time is entry pops. And then we talked to somebody and he said, well, when we put this entry pop up on our website, our subscriptions went up, our this went up, our whatever went up, right? And here's what that says to me. That doesn't say that the entry pops are working. What it says is that your underlying website is awful. Okay. You haven't earned the right to yell at somebody when they show up on your website. So when you say something like, well, when we did this, it made these statistics better, that's just showing that you have an underlying problem on your website and you need to fix your website. Because I promise you, if you have a high converting website, a really well performing website, and you put an entry pop on it, you will lower all the goodness, not make it better. So you got to fix the website. Now, I'm not against pop ups. There's exit pops, there's time pops, there's reasons. Earn the right before you start, yelling at them and trying to talk to them. It just doesn't make sense. All right. So if we look here, another thing, this is nice. All right, MailChimp. It's clear. It's instant display. They've written this for the visitor, as opposed to the people that are doing what I call the opera school of marketing. Here, it's all about look good, grow fast, sell more. Is anybody confused, about kind of their overall messaging. All right, you're not. Now you have to dig a little deeper to find out what if you don't know who they are, what they do, and so on. But that just gives you a flavor. The other thing that happens that we talk about is don't make people think. Okay, and so I'll give you an example, and this time I'll use an e-commerce example. You've gone to buy something, and you're on the website, and it says sign up for our newsletter. Why? Why are you asking somebody to sign up for a newsletter prior to letting them give you money? Or they're buying something and you say, share this on Facebook. No. First get their money. Okay. And then after you've gotten the money, after they've completed the purchase, offer them a reason to sign up for the newsletter. Offer them a reason to share it on Facebook. Okay. Don't interrupt people in the middle of their processes. And really it comes down to don't make them think. All right. Hopefully that makes, a ton of sense here in this process. So with that in mind, let's go a step further. Overwhelming distractions. So what are you've all seen this, all right? Basically pages that have massive volumes of text up on their website, right? And you really don't want people to have to read everything under the face of the planet. It just doesn't work. All right. So with that in mind, if you think about it, you really have to step back and say, what is it that people really need to know in order to make a decision, to be a lead, to subscribe, to buy, whatever it is. So we know for a fact, and we've tested this time and time again, that less, and this is going to sound weird, less is more. Don't overwhelm your visitors with way too many options here. Okay, so let's go a step further. We want to make sure that that we're clear with whatever we're doing with a client. All right, and we'll go a little bit further, and we'll dive down into other things that they do. They brag about their deals and their details. You got to show your visitors, measurable results. Okay. So why are digital marketers selfish? What's the point of this? Okay. Well, here's the thing. We've talked about the whys, and it all comes down to, all right, they don't mean to be selfish. It turns out they become selfish almost by accident in the scheme of things. So we've all had this. This is one of my favorite. For some companies, the problem is what we call, the business owner or the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion, right? It's also hard to let go. So at the end of the day, if you're in an organization where you've got a business owner, a VP, somebody saying, but I think it should be this, or I think it should be that, the answer is no, it doesn't matter what you think. Okay. It only matters what is valuable to the end client. All right. It is not what's valuable to the people in the organization. So the good news is with internet marketing, everything you do is measurable. So you should be able to prove it. The next thing on the list is we do this sometimes. We overuse things over and over and over again. You've done something, it's worked well, and we think, oh, that works. Okay. But here's the thing. There's a difference between tactics and strategy. Tactics are based upon, this is how I do something in Facebook. This is how I do something in LinkedIn. This is how I do something on Google Ads, right? But the strategy of speaking to the visitor instead of worrying about, well, I have to use Facebook. No, you don't have to use Facebook. I have to do LinkedIn advertising. No, you don't have to. Those are all tactics. Okay. Knowing who you're talking to and how you speak to them so that they absolutely understand what they're looking for is what's going to make a difference. All right. So what do they need to understand? And I said this up front. I'm going to say this again. It is not about you. All right. It is about your visitor. And so with that in mind, let's uh, let's take a look at a case study we did, Blue Bungalow. And I'm going to show you, and this is what I was talking about. These are these really wonderful, nice people, and they have a physical store. They're rather large as a company. Okay, I won't say how big, but they're significant. And this was their About Us page. All right, and basically what they had here was what we call an army of words marching on the page looking for meaning. This is all about them. Now you would say, of course it's about them. It's their About Us page, right? So why wouldn't it be about them? Well, here's what it should have been. All right, I'm sorry. So this is the after. So you'll notice, welcome to Blue Bungalow, the home of, and it says flattering, and we've also bolded safe place, your friend in fashion, feel confident, look your at. So what did we do here? People don't read. So what we did is we highlighted the words to make the About Us really more about the visitor. And so by doing this, this decreased their bounce rate tremendously. It increased their signups. It increased their orders. This was a massive success. And if you're curious, this case study is up on our website. All right. But as we went through the page, even when we went where we started, founded in 2012, women all over the world, 3,000 styles. Okay. Personalized service at the bottom. All of these things really make a difference for the visitor. And then the last part that we had, and I got to tell you, this was hours of going back and forth. When you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you're more confident. And when you're more confident, you're more you. And when you're you, you're unstoppable. I'm telling you that these words here absolutely killed it, because what did they want them to do? They wanted them to join the private Facebook group, right? But this is what made sense to speak to the visitor in a way that it wasn't selfish. It was all about the visitor. So that was the flavor of that. Now, with all of this said, so with that in mind, all right. So how do you effectively bring your brand message to your audience? Okay, and really, what it comes down to um, is make it about your brand, what you do, and make sure you're targeting your visitors. So, for example, with Stratum C here, when they land on the page, all right, this is all about the visitor. So, it's specially formulated for menopausal skin. If you are a woman going through menopause and you have menopausal skin, this speaks to me as the visitor. So they're smartly capturing their message to a specific audience. All right. So the ideal customer experience here, all right, is going to evoke some emotion. Because here's what happens when somebody lands on a website, whether they land on a landing page or your home page, or from an SEO perspective, they landed randomly in the middle of it. Okay. They ask themselves three questions. They ask themselves, am I in the right place? How do I feel about this site or this page? And what am I supposed to do here? So, what you want to do is you want to evoke some some emotion, so that when they're answering those questions, they feel really good about this. So, for example, in Eloqua here, they are selling to plus size clothes. All right. So I bring this up because I'm going to tell a story about a competitor of theirs, which is going to sound weird. Why would I bring this up and talk about a competitor? Well, we worked with the competitor, all right? And when we first worked with a competitor who sold exclusively to plus size models, all right, all of their models on their page were thin. And we're like, what? Explain to me why you've got all of these thin models when you only sell plus size women's clothing. And they said, well, we want it to be aspirational. And the answer is no, that's just insulting. That's not going to make anybody who comes to this page feel good about them. So this company does it right. And the people that we were, working with were not doing it right. And I got to tell you, we had a really hard time convincing them to um, to go from, you know, thin models to plus size models, and we could only get them part of the way there. They agreed to mix it, but the site is for the visitor. The site is not for, the end user. So with that in mind, okay, if you do this correctly, then it really comes down to, and your analytics leaves clues in this, all right? But there is a direct correlation between your bounce rates, your time on site, and your conversion rate. And so what I'm going to tell you here is that if you align that user intent, we go back to what I said earlier. If we align that user intent, okay, with the experience that they've got, and your company goals, and we answer the three questions: am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? And what am I supposed to do here? You will absolutely have a successful um, conversion rate and a successful site. All of this is documented in my book, True Connections: Relationship Marketing in the Digital World. It talks about not being selfish. It talks about the three questions. And so I've left some time for some Q&A here. So, but I also know, because of the timing of this, I'm a minute past the time, Kenneth. So, but I started late. So sorry, buddy.
Damn it. How do we get that minute back, Marty?
Sorry.
No, it's great. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that I received.
Okay.
One is, why do you think marketers are afraid to test giving away that value first?
Oh, that's simple, because we have this discussion almost on a daily basis. The pressure, and I'll use an example like lead generation. All right, but it could be anything. All right, in lead generation, you've got the marketing department who's got to generate marketing qualified leads, and you've got the sales department that says, we need to know their name and their company and their budget. We need this, we need that, because the salespeople don't want to, do the work to talk about this. So the marketing people try to get all of this stuff, and so they're under this unbelievable pressure to generate something very specific. All right. And so it's basically the pressure of an organization. And so, and we've had this where we've had to beg to, can we test 20% of your traffic, please? With something where we give it away. And
Mhm.
it takes time. And in some instances, we were able to get people to do that, but they are deathly afraid of not meeting their goals. I will tell you, in one instance, we solved this problem in the strangest way you could ever imagine. This was a few $100 million a year company. They had sales and marketing departments that worked by product set, and they were on different floors. We actually made the client move their sales and marketing groups that work together into the same area. So the sales and marketing teams actually had to work together, literally had to work together, and it solved all this problem. Okay. I know that's crazy, but
That's crazy talk, Marty.
I know, but seriously.
uh, and as a plus size model, I want to ask you a second question
Wait, that
from
hurt me.
anonymous. Hi, Marty. You talked about less being more on site pages. Is there a point where you think too little is too little? How do we know when minimalism goes too far?
Okay. So when I say less is more falls into a couple categories. All right. Um, and I'm going to, this is different country by country, because we've also tested this. Americans, and I'm an American, so I can say this: Americans tend to be lazy, and or stupid. I don't know what the problem is. We're like immediate gratification kind of people. You take that same page or that same website, and you put it in the UK, they like to read more. So less is more doesn't work as much in the UK, even though they're both English sites, right?
Mhm.
So how do you know what less is more is? It's not necessarily always about having less content. It's having content that's scannable in a way that those who want to read it can. But as I showed in the Blue Bungalow example, which is a long about us page, we made that thing, it's got to be 5 or 6 times longer than it was before. But we made it so that it's scannable. All right. So they don't actually have to read it. All they have to do is scan it. And that's a form of less is more. Does that make sense, Kenneth?
It does. It does completely. No, I love testing out types of content, how much somebody will read and scroll through versus just more of the type A folks like me. Let me bring up one other thing. Couldn't agree more with you. I've got 2 copies of this book. We're trying to make
Excellent.
certain that Dale, God rest his soul, his family gets more money out of this thing, but I've given this away as a gift. It's been one of the most insightful books about marketing in digital marketing I've ever read, and I've read it several times. It's a really good reminder just about human behavior in particular. So, Marty, fantastic presentation. Very thankful. Appreciate you coming up a little bit early
No
as
worries.
well. And you go have a good day. I'm gonna be jealous that you live in beautiful Tampa, Florida.
Okay. Well, thank you all, and thank you for attending.
All right, buddy. Talk to you
Bye now.
soon.